Hello guys, it's Randall with Bitraged. So I want to do a quick video here, an update on what's going on with Bitcoin. I know you guys have been waiting for this. I've been kind of watching Bitcoin all day. It's been a busy day, but we didn't have a lot really happening. If you look at uh, the 1 hour chart here, it wasn't really a lot happening until about 6 hours ago. We just kept bouncing off this line. In fact, we dropped down, then we came back up and we're just literally bouncing our heads up against this resistance line. And finally, we got a little bit of volume coming in, and we broke through. And that's a good sign. It's definitely a good sign for the bulls. But there are some concerns we do have to look at. So here's the good news. So on the 4 hour, we closed above. We have what currently is a bullish candle, but a very small bullish candle, and could turn bearish on the 4 hour. So it's still possible for this candle to close outside. That would be a very negative. So we're looking for this candle to close with some price action inside this area, confirming our breakthrough. And then we're looking for the daily to close inside, and preferably to get, it'd be nice to get 2 days closing inside. If we get another daily candle that closes outside, that's again going to be a definite negative for the bulls. So a couple of things that are important that we really address. So we're breaking through our resistance, our Fibonacci 38.2% resistance line. Very crucial point to break through. We're breaking through it. We haven't broken through it. So understand the difference. There is a difference. Once you break through resistance, it becomes support. We're not at the point where this is support. Well, we essentially are at the point where we've made a hole, and now it's just as easy to fall back through that hole as anything else. So we need confirmation. We need to close above and really get some bull movement up before this actually becomes support, because as it stands right now, we could easily drop back through that, and that would not be good for the bulls. We are breaking through my trend line. Again, we want to see it close above that and continue above that. We are breaking through 38.2%. We want to see close above that and continue above that. We are currently above our moving averages, currently all three of them. We want to stay above that to kind of confirm this. And what we really want to see is volume come in. So right now, currently, you look at the 1 day, and bears and bulls in volume are pretty equal. So if we start breaking through this and we start hitting resistance, which we are, it's going to be heavy resistance in this whole area. It's going to be the hardest point yet. And not only is it going to be resistance, but you're going to have a heavy amount of sell orders between this whole area. Where they crop up depends on where the sellers think the top is going to be. Be prepared to be kind of stonewalled in areas here. I anticipate if we continue up around somewhere in the third here is probably where we're going to bounce off a little bit. Some people look at 12,000. That's totally possible. It's kind of above the middle, so we could definitely hit 12,000 or that area and bounce back off. We're probably looking most likely for a retracement back down to 10,000 and possibly 9. It really depends on whether we see volume come in to support this, whether we see a ton of sellers coming in to push the volume down. It kind of depends on a lot of factors that we just really don't have the data for yet. We have to wait for clear signs that we are heading back down again, which we're not seeing those signs yet on, obviously not on the daily, but not seeing them yet on the 4 hour. We're seeing two candles here that don't really give me a lot of faith. So we essentially have one bullish 4 hour candle. So that's important to understand that for this breakthrough, we have one bullish candle. So this candle really doesn't tell us anything yet, so we can't consider this with too much weight. We need several candles here, and it could easily turn against us and close below this line. So that's kind of what we're looking for confirmation on, is where we stand. We've seen a lot of attempts to break through this and failure. Now we need to really see this stick if it's going to continue upwards. But most likely we will see some retracement, even if it's just back down into the 10,000s and it turns around at this area. Is totally possible. That could definitely happen, at least for the short term, and then we could continue back up. The issue I'm really seeing is I really believe we're going to be stonewalled in this area. I really feel like we're going to struggle to break through that area, and I really believe that we're going to be pushed back down below this line. And if we get pushed back down, the question is, at what point do we see the panic sellers come back in? Because that's what's going to kill us. So we could retrace down to 9,800. That is a point of possible retracement for several reasons that I just really don't have the time to go through everything. But that is a point of possible retracement between 9,800 and 10,000. But it's possible that we get pushed back down to 89. If we did, we're going to see a panic sell from there. How far we go down is debatable. But if we get a panic sell going, it could increase in momentum, and we could end up on the wrong side of this chart, if you will, depending on where you stand on where Bitcoin is at. Almost looks like a little guy running. Anyways, I'm tired. It looks, I'm seeing pictures on my chart now. So there's a couple other things that I just want to bring out. Let's go back here. Well, first of all, we have a divergence here. We have price is making a higher high, but on our RSI, it's not. All right. So on RSI, on our oscillator, price is making a lower high. Now this is a 4-hour, which is generally considered a pretty solid indication, but we have to wait for this to fully develop. It could actually correct itself and no longer be an issue. And again, we don't just take divergences and run with them. We don't just say, okay, there's a bearish divergence, it's telling us it's going to drop, so we better get out of here. What we do is we take that and we say, okay, there's a little bit of sketchiness in the market right now. There's a increased probability that we are going to see a price drop, a price correction, a retracement. So then we go and we look and we watch and we look for signs of retracement, which most likely are going to show up within the next 12 hours. Very, very likely. This candle right here, it may close pretty much as a doji. All right, pretty much as a doji. That's totally possible. So we don't have a strong position. We definitely have a, I guess I would say that we have bullish favor because we definitely did break into this resistance, which was a hurdle. But again, if you look at the volume, it's debatable on who is winning as far as volume goes. So essentially what that means is we could continue up, but when you have buyer and seller volume that's at those levels, it pretty much means that it isn't going to take too many sell orders coming in beyond normal volume to push the price back down, which is what I am pretty much anticipating happening, because we have a lot of people that really want to sell and make some profit in the 12,000, 13,000 area. So right now, 11,600, we have some, but most people are really looking to, I believe, really looking to 12,000 and above to make their profit. And if you look at, watch what people are predicting, that's pretty much what people are looking at, is 12 and 13,000. So definitely going to see a lot of sell orders in that area, going to see a lot of resistance in this whole area to look out for. So we really need to see the bulls pick it up, step it up, really put up some effort here and push this forward. So we are seeing, like I said, we are seeing the volume increase slowly, very slowly. When we broke through, we really didn't have much volume. It was a really bad amount of volume to break through on. It's not something you want to see. It is increasing, it has been increasing. But again, my fear is that we're going to see the seller volume increase over buyer volume. And I want to explain this because I know someone's going to mess it up and misunderstand. So obviously when you have Obviously you have buyers and sellers, and to complete a transaction you need both. So what do I mean when I say buyer volume and seller volume? I essentially mean when sellers overwhelm buyers or buyers overwhelm sellers. It's the idea of supply and demand. So right now it's fairly equal. That's why we just saw this 4-hour candle turn red. It was green. It went into a doji. Essentially where we're at right now is we have a pretty much equal buyer and seller volume. So the supply and demand is evening out to the point where we're not making movement up or down. So right there, there's no movement. We're right even. For this to move up, we need to see more buyers come in. Then we have people trying to sell. So when I say buyer volume, that's what I mean. And obviously the opposite is true for seller volume. So that's what we need to see. We're not seeing that right now. We saw it with this candle. We're not seeing it yet. With this candle, we still have time for this to fully develop. We have about 37 minutes for it to fully develop. But most likely, my anticipation is this candle is going to turn out to either be a doji or pretty insignificant either way. And my guess is going to be that the next candle is going to be a red candle. It may not close below the line, but it should be a red. And from there, we just really need to watch it and see what happens. That's kind of my gut feeling. It doesn't necessarily have to pan out that way. It could pan out several different ways, but we are being pushed down heavily by resistance. We need to see more buyer volume come in at this point to really sustain this bear run. So I don't want to keep harping on that point. I know I've mentioned it a few times. I think it is probably clear. So let me address a couple of things really quickly, and then we will close this out and I will get to bed because I have to be up early in the morning. So are we still looking at retesting 5,800 or 6,000? We've obviously created some support points above this area. So there's no longer a need to drop this low. The question is no longer of a need so much as if market sentiment is going to push it that way. And what do I mean by that? I simply mean this. We have not had buyer conviction for quite a while now. And I know somebody's going to disagree with me, but pretty much anyone who's been trading the market for any length of time is going to agree that we've not had buyer conviction, because we'd be above this line if we had buyer conviction. That's where it would have pushed us. We don't have buyer conviction. We haven't had the buyer volume. We've had indecision on movement, and most likely most of this push, I don't want to use the word artificial, but I do not really see it as genuine. I mean, most of you may have seen the news article of the anonymous person. Maybe they have a name now, I don't think so, but the anonymous person who bought $400 million worth of Bitcoin. That was in, let's see, my understanding is between 8,000 and 9,000, somewhere in those areas. In this area, somewhere in this area, okay? So you have to understand, some of this push was somebody who just picked up 400 million Bitcoin. Now you have to ask the question, what are they doing with it? So I guess this person has pretty much double that. Are they planning to sell off somewhere in here? Now what's the point? What was the point? Maybe there is no point. Maybe they just wanted to buy and hold. Totally could be. But you have to ask these questions. I ask these questions. I kind of am skeptical of a lot of things. So I like to ask questions and see if I can find answers. But so I really see a lot of this movement as not enough for buyers to get behind if we take too much of a plunge. So if we see a breakthrough here, it's going to scare a lot of people. If we break down to 90, well, first I was going to do 9,800, but if we break down to 9,800, I think we're going to see a lot of people selling off for fear. If we break back through this line, we are going to take a tumble, and that's when we probably would see a 6,000 or somewhere in that area, a retest, a reaffirmation of support and buyer conviction. That is probably only going to happen if we break through this area. That is what is almost guaranteed to happen if this is a bull trap, though. So if this turns out to be a bull trap, if over the next day or so this unfolds into a bull trap, then look out, because we are going to drop at least to 6,000, maybe much lower, because it essentially means this whole market was based on false dreams, and that's going to scare a lot of people. So you have to factor in a lot of these things. I know a lot of people are looking for news and they're saying there's no negative news, but we've had a lot of positive news and it hasn't brought in the buyer conviction yet. So we're still at an indecisive point in the Bitcoin market, and that's something we really need to understand, whether you're bearish or bullish. Oh look, my little guy's riding a unicycle. I gotta go to bed before this gets even weirder, but that's kind of cool. Of course, it looks like he's flying off the handles. That's crazy. Anyways, I think I lost my train of thought here. So pretty much all the other indicators I'm looking at, bulls are pretty weak right now. We have bullish signals in MACD, but MACD is pretty weak. It's not in a very strong position, so this could change. We're on the 4 hour. This could change very quickly into a bearish. It wouldn't take much at all, and because of the position we are in, if it changes to a bearish signal and we start to drop off, again, we may see some momentum pushing us down into the low 10,000s, maybe even breaking 10,000. That wouldn't be necessarily a bad thing. I really honestly believe if we drop to 9,800 or 10,000 or 10,200 and we bounce off and we get a clear jump off from that with clear buyer volume and conviction, it's going to be a good thing for the bulls. So that's something you should be wanting to happen if you want to see the bulls succeed here. Lastly, I really want to bring up the point that we haven't had enough time since the 6th, which is our low here, to consider this a bull trend. I know I've harped on that before. My point is simply this. If you look at past history of Bitcoin and its falls and rises, there is a fair consistency in the length of time it takes for us to get out of a correction. Now, if you average it out, and even if you pick a low end of the spectrum, we are still not close. So even if we're going to say things are wrapping up and we're coming out of this correction, we really still need to wait until the first week of March, the second week of March, depending on how things roll out here. Really need to wait for March. I'm really looking at the first week of March as confirmation. If we get good bullish volume coming in and it continues into March, I think we could consider that confirmation going into March that we are in a bull run and things are looking good for the bulls. If we kind of continue to bounce around here, we break back into here and we go into March in kind of still an indecisive point, we're more likely to be looking at another downtrend to retest bottoms. So it's important to understand the length of the average correction. It's important to understand where we've come through from in the past, where the chart has been, and the other times in the chart where it's looked like we were coming out of it. Now, granted, this area here definitely looks better than other areas on the chart, okay? So it's not as high and not as low, so it's more of a consistent kind of growth here, whereas this went up and down and then we plunged. That doesn't mean we can't plunge again. So I'm not trying to scare people. I'm not trying to just harp on the idea of a bearish trend. I'm just trying to encourage you to really look at everything, make a decision on all the facts, and really watch how things are developing. So on the 4 hour, you're going to need to watch the next 2 to 3, 4 candles. They're going to be clear indicators of where this is headed. So, but most likely we're going to either see this return and drop back under 38.2%, or we're going to start to see it slowly climb in this area. So, need to really watch this over the next day or two to see how it develops. But I'm still leaning bearish, not for personal preference, not for a reason to buy, just based on what I'm seeing in the chart. If the next few 4-hour candles turn out to be decent bullish candles, my preference, well, not my preference, but my inclination is going to lean bullish. So it's really going to depend on that. That being said, until we break through this 13,000 area, I'm still waiting for this to open up as a bull trap. So I want to leave you with two things. First of all, the thing that most people are saying is going to happen is most likely not going to happen in a situation like this. So right now, a ton of people calling this a reversal, bulls in control, bull trend, with shaky evidence, to say the least. I mean, there's some indications, obviously, but there's not strong buyer power. There's not strong bullish power. Well, first of all, what were people saying here? Essentially to the moon. As we came up this line, people were saying, oh, it's going to 50,000, it's going to 100,000, right? We came up to here, and everyone was like, all right, cool, so we're back, right? We're back up to the top. Now we're going to 50,000, 100,000. People were saying that that was where we were headed. We dropped back off. We dropped down to here. We had a W pattern, right? Which is generally a really good sign of reversal. At this point, people were saying we're going back up to 20,000, and it didn't happen. My point is, all along this chart, people have been making the chart say what they want it to say. That's why when we look at the charts, we try to look at every possible scenario. We try to look at everything that could happen and try and give you the options. So that's why I told you, if it does this, then most likely this is going to happen. If it does that, most likely that's going to happen. So if we close below the line, it's a very negative sign for the bulls. If we continue to close above the line on the 4-hour candles, it's a good sign for the bulls, right? So it's pretty easy. So what we do is we just look at what the chart is saying. We give the best possible analysis, and at the end of the day, we just gotta keep watching the chart and reanalyzing everything. Alright guys, I think that'll about do it. I'm going to head to bed here as soon as I get done editing this video. I will try and do a video update for you tomorrow. I'm gonna see how things roll, but I'm expecting we should see some eye-opening things happen by tomorrow and through tomorrow. We're just at that position where it's really hard for it to just consolidate at this point. It really would be hard because you're between a point where you have a push to go higher and a push to go lower. So it's a kind of a delicate situation that really is most likely going to push one way or the other over the next 12 hours, I would anticipate. It could take longer, but just watching this kind of unfold here, probably over the next 12 hours, we should see some indications on where we are probably headed over the next day or two. So keep an eye on that. Definitely comment and let me know what you're seeing. I know that some people are feeling like we're really down on the bulls, and really I would appreciate if you guys wouldn't feel that way, because I think we've made it pretty clear in our videos that we are just analyzing what is going on. So I definitely am seeing the bullish signs that you guys are seeing as well, but I'm also seeing the practicality of where we're at, and I also need to be honest with what is possible. So as long as there are possibilities, I'm going to share them with you, and the most likely, and what is most likely. So look for a retracement down to 10,000 and a bounce off that. That would be really, really healthy at this point. I would absolutely love to wake up to that retracement beginning. And I will have alerts on my phone to keep track of it. So if anything major does happen in the night, I will know. So thanks for watching, guys. Really do appreciate it. And please comment below and let me know what you're thinking in regards to where we're at with Bitcoin. And definitely click the like button. Definitely make sure that you are subscribed if you are already. We do appreciate that. Thanks for supporting us. We do appreciate your support. So keep sane, guys. Keep patience. Don't lose your patience. Don't lose your wealth. Be careful out there and take care.